Hey guys, it's Kat and I'm back today for a foundation wear test. Now you might be well aware that I'm trying to minimize my makeup collection, but I still have the urge occasionally to try new foundations. And I want to buy new foundations, but I also know that the core of it is just trying. I want to try new foundations. So one that I thought I wanted to try recently was actually a cult foundation that makeup artists talk about, heaps of people talk about, they've been talking about it for years and years and years, and I thought I've never actually tried it, and I've been put off this because I do have oily combination skin, and this is a sort of glowy luminous foundation which generally doesn't work well on my skin type, but I have heard other people say that it's still great for sort of combination oily skin. So this is the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Foundation. I got a sample. I didn't buy it. I saw an offer on just advertised on the internet from the Armani website, and they said that you can get a shade match and they will send you out a free sample. So this is a 5 ml sample. A normal bottle is 30 mils, and in Australia it's $110, which is very expensive. You can often find it on sale. Sephora often has 20% off sales. It's currently on sale when I'm filming this at Adore Beauty for 15% off, so you can get it slightly cheaper, just shy of $100, but it's still a very, very expensive foundation. So I thought I will try this before I decide if it's something that's worth spending my money on, because in the past I have just bought foundations to try and then I'm left with a foundation graveyard. So that's why I'm trying a sample. So I haven't done one of these foundation reviews in quite some time, but the format that I generally go off, I'll tell you about my skin, what it's like, what I look for in a foundation. I'll tell you the claims of the foundation. I'll show you me applying it, and then I'll check back throughout the day and let you know how it's wearing. Today is a fairly cold day, so I'm not super oily, but I am going out. I'm going to be doing a bit of running around, and I also have an appointment for a flu vaccination, so I'll be wearing a mask later. We'll see if it actually rubs off or rubs off with my sunglasses, because I find these sort of more luminous foundations on me anyway tend to rub off quite easily, so we'll see how well it sort of stays on my face. But with my skin, I have oily combination skin, so I get quite an oily T-zone. On my chin, around my nose, tends to wear off foundation like almost entirely by the end of the day. My sort of sides of my face are quite normal skin, so we can judge based on how things sort of sit here, how it would sort of wear on normal skin. So generally what I look for in a foundation is something that will cover my redness, because I do have quite a bit of redness in my face, and I just want enough coverage to even that out and look like I'm not just a patchy red mess. I also look for something that stays on my skin. So I don't mind if something has a luminosity. I actually like the look of a luminous base, but I find that often with luminous bases, they don't set down and they are more inclined to transfer, which on my oilier skin means that it doesn't stay on my face. So I love a foundation to cover a little bit and also stay on my face. So we'll see how this one goes. So when it comes to the claims, I've got some information here from Adore Beauty, which is one of the official stockists in Australia. It says that it's a liquid foundation with a luminous finish. It's supposed to be weightless on the skin, creates a flawless lit from within glow. It's got microfill technology, which ensures a seamless finish. It's a light to medium coverage, it's a buildable finish, suitable for all skin types, but it's best on combination or normal to dry skin types. It says it's best applied with fingers or a brush. It's non-comedogenic, it's oil-free, and it's 30 ml bottle. So there we go. I'm not actually going to apply this with my fingers today, just because it's not my preferred method of application. So what I ended up doing was half sponge, half brush, and I'll tell you how I go with that. So let's get on to me applying this. All right, so it's just before 9 o'clock. Let's call it, I'm starting this at 9 o'clock. And what I've done to my face, it's a bit shiny. It's got sunscreen on, so I washed it. I used some Bondi Sands. This is a vitamin C serum. And I'm also using the Ultraviolet Queen Screen SPF 50. So this is just an SPF. You get it in like a dropper. I've used a couple of dropperfuls on my face. That's why it's quite shiny and a little bit tacky. I did do my skincare maybe like 20 minutes, half an hour ago. So it has settled in a little bit, but the nature of this product is unless you sort of put something over it or set it, it does look quite shiny. So I just thought I'd stick to a basic skincare routine that I use fairly frequently. So if there's any noticeable things happening, I know it's not the skincare. All right, so with my skin, I do have redness that I like to cover. You can see that I have quite a big patch of redness there. I've got a lot on my chin that just looks like speckledy redness, a little bit here, and then just all over I have a little bit of a flush of redness. On camera, it actually picks up redness a lot worse. So what I might do is put a photo or a video on the screen from my phone, which is a little bit more accurate of what I'm covering. Because I do have a lot of redness in my face, I usually try to match a foundation to this part of my face. So my neck and this area here that doesn't have redness. I've seen many people say to people with redness in their skin that they've got a really like pink toned skin tone. Not actually the case. Your skin tone is more like this color, and what's coming through is just redness, like it's sort of like irritation. So that's not actually my skin tone. If I was to match a foundation to this color, I would look like I'm a pink floating head because it doesn't match the rest of my body. So I find that this sort of area to match to makes my face look like it's part of my body. Now I'm using the shade 4.5. I actually did the shade match system on the Armani website, and this is what they recommended. When I did go in store and I had a little bit of a look, I thought I was closer to 5.1, so this is probably a little bit light for me, but I can bronze it up, it's fine. The tone actually looks quite good. It actually looks quite neutral, so it's not too pink, it's not too golden. I quite like it. I'm going to apply half with a damp sponge. This is my Ella Cosmetics sponge. So I'll probably do this half of my face with the sponge. I'm not using any primer because I don't like primer affecting how a foundation sits when I do a foundation test, but also I actually don't use primer. I feel like the more layers I put on my skin, the worse it is for longevity, because I do have oily skin and sort of extra layers sort of slip off throughout the day. So that's actually a nice amount of coverage just on a sponge. I'm sort of building this up quite a bit, and I did use quite a lot. Like that's all gone. That would be a normal application with a higher coverage foundation for me, or using even less, but this has sort of gone really, really quickly. But it's giving a nice finish to this part of the face. This is where my real issue is in my nose. You can see my nose is quite red. I really like that amount of coverage. There's stuff still peeking through, so it looks like normal skin, but it's evened out a lot of my skin tone. So that's what I look for in a little bit of coverage. If it can't even out some of the redness and sort of cover the redness a little bit, I just don't see the point of it, because I end up having to go in with a lot of concealer. But this there's a little bit of redness that you can see, but it still looks evened out. So I like it with a sponge. I am feeling like I'm using quite a lot though, to be honest. Like again, this would be a full face, maybe a little bit left over if I was using a more medium to a full coverage foundation, but I feel like I need to layer this quite well. Oh, that's actually looking really good as well. Okay. So I'm just using a Nabla foundation buffer brush, and I'm sort of just tapping it on for now. I don't want to sweep it because you can see streaks. I just feel like if I do a bit of tapping to get it on and to get the coverage I want, and then I can sort of spread it out a little bit. This shade match is actually quite nice, to be honest. I thought it was going to be a little bit light, and probably is a little bit light, but we're going into winter, so it's the time to have a slightly light foundation. All right, I'm much preferring this with a sponge. It does use up a lot more foundation when you use a sponge, but I'll zoom in. There's like speckle marks on my nose. It's just not sitting properly, and a lot of like lines. Whereas this side, which I'll zoom in again, it just looks a lot smoother. And this also, yeah, just doesn't sit as well. Okay, I've got the darkness turned down quite a bit, so you can see that that's applied quite smoothly. But this side, I'm not sure if you can see the speckling and like the patchiness. I just don't feel like it works as well with the brush. So I'm just going to go in with a sponge and just try to fix that up just to get that nicer finish. Yeah, straight away that's sort of blending it in a lot nicer. This is the sort of level of coverage and the effect that I wanted on a daily basis. And I don't think I would reach for $110 Australian foundation on a daily basis to get this effect. I think you can get it a lot cheaper. So that's just my first impression, but I'm going to get a bit of concealer out, a bit of powder, and we'll see how the base looks after that. I might do a quick video with my phone so you can see how the redness looks on my phone, because again, these cameras are really sensitive to red tones, so I often look a lot patchier and more red on camera than I do in real life. I will put all the products that I wear on my face in the description box, so if you want to know what I'm wearing, but I'm going to go in with my concealer. This is the NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer. I love this concealer because it goes with every foundation, whether it's a matte foundation, whether it's a dewy one. Even though this is a matte mousse product, it just tends to mix well with everything. And of course, I'm going to adapt this base to having oily skin. I know this is supposed to be more of a luminous foundation, but the point is I've got oily combination skin. So I am going to go in with powder and a bit of concealer. So you can see that this concealer straight away covering some of that darkness there. And I do like to just use a small amount. I'm not the kind of person that does a big triangle. I feel like a small amount just wears a lot better and just looks a lot more natural. But I do feel like I need concealer. Just going to bring that around my nose a little bit because this is an area that tends to get red during the day, and also on my chin a little bit, and I've got a bit of a blemish there that I want to cover just a little bit more. Well, it's not a blemish, it's a scar from a blemish. So now I'm going to just lightly powder my base, especially my under eye area. Again, I have to do this, otherwise my makeup's going to slip off. So I'm going to try to lightly powder. Now I am going to be using Patrick's powder from MAC. This was a limited edition. It's a loose setting powder, but you can get this powder in a different shade permanently. So the formula wasn't exclusive to that collection. The particular shade was. With a Wayne Goss 14 brush, I'm just going to be picking up a little bit, like that's in the lid. There's not too much. And I'm just going to just lightly, mainly powder the concealer because I do get some like creasing happening. So there's going to be people that are losing their minds that I've just sort of mattified the Luminous Silk Foundation. There is still luminosity to the skin though, so you can still see luminosity coming through. So I didn't heavily powder it, and I made sure I didn't use a powder that had like a lot of coverage, that just covered what I put on. And I can assure you the luminosity will come back with my oils. It's gonna happen. But on first impressions, like, this does feel nice. It doesn't feel sticky and gross like a lot of other sort of really luminizing glowy foundations do. Like, even with a bit of powder, they can feel quite tacky. This is very lightweight, which is one of its claims. I can tell I've got foundation on, but in terms of foundation, it feels very lightweight, and it definitely has that lit from within glow. So even though I did powder it, you can see there is a bit of glowiness there, which is quite nice. I do like glowy skin, and a lot of people who have oily skin do like the look of glowy skin, but often to get glowy skin, you need to have a really sort of like sticky, oily sort of base. And that often means bad things throughout the day. So yeah, I like the effect of it. I'm gonna have to say I don't think it's flawless without concealing. There's a lot of flaws that peek through. All right, I'm off to do the rest of my makeup. I'll come back and show you how everything's sitting on top of the foundation, and then I'll do my check-ins throughout the day. All right, makeup officially done. I will have the products I'm wearing in the description box if you wanted to know what I have on my face. I tried to go with a matte blush, so I'm not sort of artificially making my base really shiny. So this shine here that you're seeing coming through is actually probably the foundation or combination of my foundation and my skincare. I did put a bit of highlighter up here, so I tried to keep that just to this area. That area on me doesn't get greasy, so again, I just thought I'll put a little bit of highlighter there. I'll put none around this middle section, so any shine that's coming through is either oils or the foundation, and we can talk about that as the day goes on. But I feel like everything is sitting quite nicely. I think it definitely looks better with the rest of the makeup. That's always the case with foundation. Sometimes it looks a little bit heavy, or sometimes it looks a little bit funny, but as soon as you put everything else on, it sort of comes together. And so far, I think it's feeling really nice. There's no transfer. It's looking really nice, and the color match actually looks really nice as well. So I think this 4.5 is a good winter sort of cooler weather foundation for me. So that's it. My hair is a bit crazy, isn't it? All right, time for a check-in. This is around the 4-hour mark, so it's 1:20. I put the foundation on at 9 o'clock, but then I sort of finished my makeup by like 9:30, so let's give or take 4 hours. It's holding up fairly well. Like you can definitely see there's some still glowiness. A lot of this is highlighter, but you can see this is glowy. That's sort of my natural oils mixing with the foundation, settling in. There are definitely some blemishes and sort of discoloration that's coming through, so I don't feel like this is, again, flawless. There are some sunglasses marks. I might zoom in and show you. So hopefully you can see, again, there's some sort of sunglasses marks. I didn't wear my sunglasses for very long, just while I was in the car, so it's starting to wear off a little bit. But in terms of how it feels really nice. I feel like there's a little bit of moisture in the skin, so it doesn't feel powder dry, but it doesn't feel heavy and it doesn't feel greasy, which is important for me. So yeah, happy with this at the 4-hour wear. I think it's holding up really nicely, and I was out and about. It was quite warm where I was sweating a little bit. So it has, you know, I haven't just been sitting still doing nothing all day, but I do feel like if this was to look more perfected, it'd sort of keep things covered a little bit longer, and I'd sort of want to touch up the sunglasses marks and sort of blot the chin a little bit, but I think it looks really nice and healthy at the 4-hour mark. All right, so it's now after 6. So I've had this foundation on for 9 hours, but the rest of the makeup for like 8.5 hours. I was really hoping to do a check-in before the sun went down, but it didn't happen. So this is artificial lighting. Still looks pretty good in artificial lighting. Usually artificial lighting, especially at night and at the end of the day, makes me look like a decrepit corpse. But according to my viewfinder, this is looking not too bad. There's definitely some glowiness, so you can definitely see, look, is it the foundation? Is it my oils? I'm gonna say it's probably a bit of both. It is worn down on my chin area, so there's still some foundation there, but it is starting to the redness is starting to peek through. It has pretty much worn down a lot around my nose area, but that's very, very standard. Before a dewier foundation, this has actually stayed relatively intact on my skin, which is good. So I like it. It still feels really comfortable. I think it still looks pretty good. I think in person. Up here seems to be worn off. You can see some of the redness. I don't know if that's just my hair rubbing it off. I did go to the doctor's and get a flu vaccination with my son. I was wearing a mask. It doesn't seem to have worn off around the mask area too much, maybe on the chin, maybe that's where the chin came off, but overall it looks pretty good. Just to zoom in around the nose, you can see it looks a little bit patchy and it's sort of worn off right around where my nostrils are, so there's not much foundation left there, but it's not like a greasy mess. And if I touch my face, it's not like transferring too much, whereas foundations that tend to be too dewy for my skin, like you touch your face and it like lifts, this is actually quite nicely intact. I can still see some of the blush, so it's holding my makeup fairly well. It is past 9 o'clock, so I've had this base on for 12 hours, and look, it's getting a bit greasy on the chin, so would definitely do with a touch up. Like I said, it's sort of worn off on my forehead, and the rest is looking pretty all right. Like there's a bit of glow, but it's not like breaking down. It's starting to feel a little bit oily on my skin, but nothing too bad. It's mainly just sort of the chin area and any sort of wearing off. But again, if I really wanted this to keep going, I could just sort of blot that, touch it up, all good. So I am quite happy with how this is wearing. I think my makeup still looks quite nice for 12 hours wear. I think everything else is sitting well as well. So just an all right makeup day. So in terms of the claims of this foundation, I think it does meet most of them, but is sort of lacking on a couple. So it does have a luminous finish. It does feel quite weightless on the skin. Creates a flawless lit from within glow. Yes, there is a glow, which is nice. And of course you'd have more glow if you didn't set it and powder it. In terms of flawless finish though, I feel like you really need to build it up quite a lot to cover flaws. I don't think it just covers flaws with a sheer sort of layer. I feel like you have to go in with a bit of concealer or more concealing than I usually like to do to cover up little bits that are sort of poking through. So I don't think it's flawless. I just think it's a really nice sort of natural finish. The microfill technology, look, I'm going to say I didn't notice any bad texture or any like fine lines or any creasing. So I do think it probably has some technology in there that doesn't emphasize skin texture, which is nice. Light to medium coverage, yes, buildable finish. If I did just put a small amount on, I could get a much lighter coverage, but I did build it up slightly to more of a medium coverage to cover my redness, so it definitely builds to a medium coverage. So yeah, if you like more of a natural effect with a little bit more perfection than your normal skin, a bit of a glow, but also some longevity even on slightly oily skin, I think this is a nice one. My hesitation about running out to buy this, there's sort of two hesitations. One, I feel like I had to use a lot of this to get the coverage that I want. So when I look at this 5ml tube, I sort of feel like the amount that I used, I might only get like 3 applications. I'm sort of worried that this is nearly empty as it is. So unless it wasn't an accurate 5ml tube. So if I could only get probably like 3 applications out of 5ml with the amount of product I need to use to build the coverage that I want, I don't think this foundation for me is worth the money, because that's like only getting what, like 18 applications from a 30ml bottle. That doesn't sound right. That sounds crazy. So maybe this sample is just really wrong, but I did notice that I used probably at least double what I normally use for a more full coverage foundation. I tend to use a small amount of a full coverage foundation and sort of spread it further. Whereas with this, I sort of had to apply quite a lot to get the amount of coverage to cover my redness. So I don't think this is cost effective for me, but I do like how it wears. I do like the finish, and it is a foundation that I'd love to sort of reach for when I wanted to have this sort of effect. But I just, yeah, I feel like it's quite pricey for what it is. And also, this amount of coverage is the amount of coverage I want to wear on a daily basis. Sometimes if I'm going out and I'm, you know, wanting to look more perfected, I do want a smidge more coverage. Not like heaps more, just a smidge. Just so like this is under control without having to like layer concealer over it. So if this had a little bit more coverage and a little bit went a lot further than it did, I would buy this in a heartbeat. But the way it is now, it's sort of how I want my daily foundation to be. And there's no way I can justify spending $110 for a daily foundation that I can potentially use up in a month or two with the amount of product I need to cover my redness. So for me, this might be a foundation that in the future it's on the cards. Like if I see it on sale and I don't have many foundations and I want something that's a little bit glowy and like a little bit more natural than a full coverage foundation, sure, it's one that I will go back to, but I just feel like it's not cost effective enough for me. Also, I'm quite aware that if this was another time of the year and it was a lot warmer, it wouldn't wear this well. I'd probably get this wearing maybe at like the 6 or 8 hour mark. So I feel like this is sort of exclusively a short-term wearing product or a winter product for me. I do have to say though, the shade match was pretty good. So if you want to do the shade match system on the Armani website, it wasn't a bad one. I think it was, I'd normally go for something slightly deeper, but I think the undertone was great. And once I bronzed it up a little bit, it just looked good. So 4.5 works well for me. And yeah, it's going to be a foundation that's on my mind and sort of in the background. Like I might buy it if I want to treat myself or if I want to look particularly amazing, but also quite natural. I think this is a foundation that I would splurge on, but I just don't need it at the moment. All right, that's it. I'm calling it a night. I want to take my bra off. I want to wash my face. I'm very uncomfortable. So I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.